I have this whole vision. And then I also find myself scared at the same time. I was like, oh my God, what if it goes wrong or something doesn't work out? And it's like, okay, just do it.
Totally normal. And by the way, you're always going to live a little bit outside your comfort zone. And in fact, if you're not doing things that terrify you, you're probably not doing anything at all. Hey, this is Leah, and today on Legacy Launch Pod, I'm coaching a student of mine. Her name is Elke, and she creates handcrafted wool creations. So different things. And then she also teaches people DIY, and she is in the beginning stage of actually making a change in her business. She's ready to scale. She tells me, Leah, I want to go to 7 figures. How do I get out of this hobby side gig type of business? And how do I actually build this thing? You'll hear that I'm going to direct her a lot back to things that I already teach that she's not quite doing yet. And then I encourage her to make some pretty significant changes. And then we get into some mindset things. And I just think that if you listen through this, whether you're a beginner, you are a hobbyist, and especially if you are a creative or an artist, musician, anything like that, this is going to be very helpful because I talk about some of the things that are scalable and the things that aren't, and the things that we love that aren't scalable, which we can keep if we choose, but they're knowing that they're not going to scale the business. And then the things that I believe she should pivot to in order to actually get that business and grow it to 7 figures. I hope you enjoy this coaching session. And if you did, please leave me a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is and if you'd like me to do more of these. What is the main trouble that you're having? Like, what have you already been doing, and how much of the program have you implemented, and what have you not implemented yet? Those kinds of things.
So I have gone through my module 5. So I've gone through all the modules. Up until there. My main question to you was, what is it that keeps creative businesses stuck at the hobby level? Well, my aim is to get past that. So that's what I've been doing. What does it take to make your venture successful and grow it into a multi 7-figure business, as an artist or a maker?
Yeah. So because I deal with this all the time with musicians, myself being a musician, I started out at the hobby level on the music side, and I deal with this all the time with creatives. And I'm so glad this is such a smart question that you're asking too, because there's a lot of people that just assume, well, if I'm talented, the success will come, and if I have something of value, automatically the success will come. And so what I see, like musicians staying at the hobby level and other creatives and craftsmen and things like that, the gap between their talent and what they're doing end result, like they see this vision of a multi 7-figure business, it's audience, and it's building a real brand, like a brand that's recognizable. Maybe you're not like a household name, like you're in every single store that everyone in the whole planet knows who you are, but you're almost like a micro celebrity within a very small space. And so basically you can see it like this. You are the large fish in a small pond, right? We don't want to try to be the biggest shark in the ocean or the biggest whale in the entire ocean. Like that's overwhelming, right? That's too much. It's easy to be the biggest fish in a small pond. And the way we do that is through all the activities. It's audience, right? And the activities that we do that build that audience. So we're talking, it's the organic content, the paid content, the coming soon lead generation campaigns, it's the email marketing. It's really, really, really simple. And so when I taught musicians, and I've taught many musicians, I have tons of old clients that have built multi 6-figure and even 7-figure businesses. They just did this exact thing, right? So we just focused on create some kind of lead magnet. Like you can do this slow or you can do this fast. The slow way, which I love steady Eddie, and we should do this no matter what, organic content. The organic content actually helps us test the angles and test the types of content and see what people naturally respond to. So if it was a tutorial, right, or a time lapse of you making the actual craft, and then like a baby like playing with the mobiles or whatever, like it's showing the time lapse, like how do people react? Do you get comments on that? Do you get likes? Do you get DMs? Like what happens with that? That organic content allows us to test a multitude of things in a rapid time frame if we want. You could post 4 or 5 times a day and nobody is going to see them all. They're just not, because people are online at different times of the day. So when we're able to rapidly test those different types of organic content, the best thing to do is then take that organic content and turn it into paid content, because we've already tested. We know people respond to this one, they didn't respond to that one. And one thing I know about advertising is that just because we put money behind something doesn't mean it's going to work. And the worst thing you can do is create bad ads that nobody liked to begin with and then throw more money at it and hope that it works. That's not a good solution. I like to use organic content first, and I test it. Did this attract the right kind of people? Did it get any engagement? Whatever. And then we turn that into an ad. And that ad can be some kind of freebie or a download. There's a whole host of little mini lead magnets, or even something bigger like a challenge or a Facebook group or a newsletter. We have a multitude of different things that we could do. And then we're just building that email list, whatever that value is. And that's the fast way to do it. And I do both. And I think we should do both all the time. But email's going to be the main thing that I bring people to over and over and over again. And like the successful hobbyist that turned big time, it was email. So it's attracting people through organic content, then using the paid traffic to build that email list. Like, no questions asked. I just actually posted about this. Did you watch my Instagram highlight called From Scratch, where we just built a brand new brand within 30 days of thinking about it, and then to $30,000 within 30 days? Did you watch that?
I did follow your stories when you were doing it.
Okay, so you saw them live. You saw them as I was posting. Okay, because what I like about my method of what I'm doing is I'm building an entire ecosystem all at once. I'm not just building little pieces of it. So I run this coming soon ad. And while I'm doing that, we're building our Facebook page, a community group. We have 1,000 people in the group now. The Instagram page, our email list, I got survey data, and we got sales all within 30 days. So we built a whole ecosystem, not just one little piece of the puzzle. So that's what I really like about this method. And I would just ask, you or any other creative who's doing this, like, why aren't you doing this method? Like, this is the method to use if you want to build an audience quickly and sell something to them fast.
I've done my first lead magnet. I think I launched it 2 weeks ago. And so that was really exciting. And I've had actually quite a few people sign up. And I just did it as like a reel on Instagram. And then, I boosted that a couple of times, and that had actually really good traction. I really liked what you were saying as well in the coaching call last week with, I think it's the lady who does the handwriting or the handwritten cards.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I guess with crafting, you could do the same as well. So really, like you're saying, building email lists.
That is your fastest path. Everything should be focused on building more emails while you're building this brand. Because people can just buy a dud email list off the internet somewhere. So it's not enough to have a list. You need a list of people who are obsessed with what you do and love that they're in that pond, right? And they're like, okay, this lady really knows what she's doing. I want to learn from her. And if I could just give you something to chew on regarding like handmade goods, if someone has a vision to build their business to multiple 6 or 7 figures, that won't be possible if they are still physically the one hand making each and every item, right? You know that. And so while you might still have that passion, you might want to continue that. The scale part of your business is going to have to come from another place or a different avenue where it's not reliant on you to do it, or it's a one-to-many vehicle, right? So if that's coaching other people to do it, or it's a digital product or a course or some other scalable physical product that can be manufactured, whatever, right? So it's going to be extremely difficult unless someone can charge $3,000 a day and for a single item and get one customer every single day. That would get you there to $1 million. But I'm assuming that you don't sell your felt items for $3,000 each.
Oh, no. Who knows?
Right. So have you given this any thought about?
I'm actually really focused on doing the DIY packs at the moment. I did a little coming soon felting tutorial last week. That's my first one. So I'm also experimenting with, okay, what do people actually want to learn? What do they want to make? Yeah. So I think doing the DIY packs and then having the tutorial in there and the materials and everything somebody needs to make a little something.
And is this something you could turn into a subscription?
It could be a subscription. I know there's people doing that already.
Good. That means there's a market for it. and you should probably jump in.
Yeah, I know there's also this real, like, I know there's one lady in Australia who's doing it. The others are more sort of in Europe because I'm in like the Waldorf style crafting. So that's like a particular sort of area. And there's a bit of, something going on where people are like, oh, well, I'm doing it already, so no one else should be doing it. One actually called another one out. It's like, hey, I'm doing the sewing circle. And now this person has started a sewing circle. And it's like, yeah, but, just because you're doing it doesn't mean other people aren't allowed to do it. It's like,
are you actually hearing that in this space that, well, this space is too crowded, nobody else should be leading this?
One person started it in Australia and she's like, okay, well, I'm pioneer. She's kind of saying no one else should be doing it. So I feel like it's good to give it maybe a different twist or do it my way.
Well, that's key. And that's the key to a couple of things. In the creative space, this should be the norm, right? We all have our own way of doing things. I mean, if you look at how many pop artists are there in the world right now that are famous, that are on the charts? I mean, dozens. There's thousands, there's millions of pop artists. Nobody is going to say, excuse me, I'm the queen of pop, and nobody else can be the queen of pop. This is ridiculous. So everybody has their own flavor, their own way of doing things. And what I would highly advise is, outside of doing our market research, which we do in modules like 3, 4, 5 in there, outside of doing that intensive deep dives, after that, I want you to put your blinders on and stop paying attention to everybody else. And the only focus you should have is being the absolute best at what you do and delivering and serving people to the highest degree that you can. How can you bring so much value to them? How can you change their lives with your kits or your supplies or whatever that is that you decide to scale? And that is the focus. We're not focusing on what so-and-so said. I mean, those are your competitors. So people ask me, do I know of this coach and that coach? I'm like, never heard of them. Don't pay attention. I'm focused on what matters in my life. I'm focused on my children, my husband, our next holiday. I'm focused on our businesses, my clients. Like, that is what I care about. That shouldn't be a thought in your mind.
It's actually really lovely because most of the businesses and creators in that same niche are really supportive of each other. So we're all, supporting each other, especially on Instagram. And that's really, really lovely. So I'm like, okay, I have to thread a little bit carefully here to keep that and to be on really good terms with all the others in a similar space. So, and I'm also like, when people start subscribing to my list, I feel so honored. I'm like, oh, you're choosing me? Like, out of all the people out there, it's like, no, I want yours. I want to learn from you. So yeah, that feels really good. But I'm just wondering, like, what do you think are the 3 biggest mistakes that people make in this scenario, like, that keeps them stuck? Like, apart from not building an email list, are there any other things?
Yeah, well, mindset is a big one. Actually, that's the biggest unlock piece. And I started writing a book these last couple weeks, and I'm really going very heavy in on the mindset side. And I thought I might have overdone and like gotten a little carried away. This might be actually 2 or 3 books that I'm writing because there's so much. But I've really gotten into the mindset stuff, and I'm going, I'm listing out like 12, 14 different major mindset blockers. And as I'm going through them, I've been triggered by every single one of these at one time or another, and sometimes all of them all at once. And so we go through different stages of life where certain ones come up for us more than others. The thing that I'm recognizing is that we do have to identify what is our current mindset block, because that is the unlock piece of getting to the other side of the chasm. Because, for example, like, let's say this comparison thing was really bothering you, right? Or the fear of success. Like, what if I become successful and then I'm really, really seen in front of people? And that's the one thing, like, because the thing is, you have the program, you actually have the plan, you've had it for a while. I would ask you, how come you haven't implemented more of it, right? And there might be something stopping you from fully doing that. Like, it could be, some people have a fear of failure. Some people have a fear of success, which is tied to visibility. Like, if I'm successful, then it's going to attract bad attention or trolls or criticism or things like that. It can be almost like guilt relating to wealth and money, guilt about motherhood or something else. So are you aware of any particular struggles that you have right now regarding mindset?
Interesting that you say that, because I was having a conversation yesterday with someone. We're talking about The Millionaire's Mind book. So The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, great book. But anyways, I found myself kind of like playing it down. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this little business, on the side kind of thing. Or like I'm doing I'm building my crafty business. But kind of, I noticed it when I was talking, I was like, I shouldn't be talking or thinking about it like that. It's like, how's it going to happen if I see it like that and if I talk to other people?
So kind of downplaying your
Just
future.
this little side hustle that I'm, working on. And it's like, no, I need to actually start seeing it for as what I want it to be.
Yes. And again, we have a lesson about that, right? Like allowing yourself to actually imagine a possibility or a possible future. Because that a lot of the times that's been shut down in us. We've been conditioned to stop dreaming, just be realistic, It's like we have been conditioned to only be realistic and to stop, don't be a dreamer. And we hear those kinds of things, oh, she's just a dreamer. Like it's a negative thing. And I understand there's certain phases of life where we're kind of thrust into the practical, where everything's like time of day, I have to be here, the car, and like meal times, like there's things like that. But I've found that if we become uninspired, everything else is downstream from there, especially as a creative. So it is actually our job and our duty to stay as much as we can in an inspired creative state. And it feels like we're wasting time when we do that because it doesn't feel super productive. But I've found that if the founder is not inspired and they don't have any energy at all, it's like their battery is just drained and nothing they do really works great. So you've got to be in an inspired place, which means the tricky part of that is that creatives are very emotional and we feel deeply. We're very sometimes introverted and we can be a bit tossed by the wind a little bit because life tends to throw us around a little bit. So we can be a little bit sensitive to that. And so we have to have enough tenacity that we don't stop being professional and show up. So the right balance is there's a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. The first chunk of it is absolutely brilliant. And he says that amateurs only do things when they feel like it, and professionals show up every day and do the craft. Write the book, they write the song, whether they feel it or not. That is the difference between amateur and professional as a creative. I have loved hearing that because there are moments where I don't feel inspired and yet I'm supposed to stay in an inspired state. How do we do that? And so the balance comes from the dreaming, right? So there's the doing and then there's the dreaming. We have to allow ourselves space enough to dream and imagine a possible future. Then we have to show up on time in our work blocks when we design them and do the thing. That's being a professional creative. So we just blew realistic out of the water. If we stay realistic, that is the limiting belief right there. So if the fact that you recognize this already for yourself is huge, like that's really the first step.
Yeah, actually sit down and think about if anything is possible, what would it be? And I have this whole vision. And then I also find myself scared at the same time.
Totally normal. And by the way, and I think you'll hear this from Stephen Pressfield in that book, I've learned that the most successful people, they have the same amount of fear. Most of them are absolutely terrified. I know I'm terrified a lot. And they just do it anyways. Like, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is terrible, but I'm just doing it. And that's the difference is that, and then your tolerance and your capacity for scary things starts to move a little bit. It starts to stretch a little bit. And the things that used to terrify you don't really they're like, that's nothing. But you're always going to live a little bit outside your comfort zone. And in fact, if you're not doing things that terrify you, you're probably not doing anything at all. You're probably not doing anything for the future or to build your business. If we're building our business correctly, we should always be doing something that's scary. So, I mean, I am doing that all the time. Then you know you're in the right zone.
Last night, I sent my first broadcast because I had a little giveaway and I had to send out the email. And I was so scared to press that button. I was like, oh my God, I'm emailing all these people that I don't even know. And is this going to go? What if it goes wrong or something doesn't work out? And it's like, okay, just do it.
That's awesome. And that's your first one. And how many people are on your list right now?
65. Yeah. So that's just from a week.
That's great. You got 65 people in your first week of promoting your lead magnet. That's really good.
Lead magnet and a little giveaway that I did like a few days
Good.
later.
Okay, good. It's working. That's a great little feedback loop. So my first milestone for you is to get to 1,000. We want to get that email list up to 1,000. And these are people who are in the industry, and make sure that you're positioning your content that you're an expert in your field. You are an authority. You have experience. You do amazing work. I'm sure you have a deep dive survey set up for them or something like that. That's the next thing I'm going to want you to implement, is make sure that anybody who opts in for a free thing, you want to be setting up an automation so that they get your deep dive survey, because the deep dive survey, that is the gold mine. That's why I have it in there, is because you don't want to miss that. And it's not too late. Like, you've got 65 people on there. You can send it out as a broadcast later, but I would go through the program again and implement that deep dive survey. When I did the opt-in for our newest brand, I did it all in once. So it was like part of the first email that they got was, thanks for opting in, blah, 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 blah. Take this deep dive survey. It just takes 60 seconds or whatever. And I got so much in the end. I was only going for 50 answers and I got well over 200. So I had all the information that I needed, the data I needed, the confidence I needed to launch the brand. So you want to make sure that you're not missing that. So my question was, what are you going to implement from this chat?
So definitely the feedback loop. That's a really, good reminder. I didn't realize that was tied in with that sort of first opt-in. And I love the book that you said, The War of Art, going to look into that. And I think mindset is a big thing.
And the other thing I want you to remember in terms of takeaway from this is, remember, your key question was, how do I get out of a hobby state and into 7-figure brand? It's going to be relentlessly building that audience, treating your brand like a real business and not like a hobby. As long as you have a hobby mindset, you have like a dabbling mindset. I've seen this so much with creatives where they've got one foot out the door. They don't go all in on it and they don't try really hard. Like, they think they're trying hard. It's not hard. That's the takeaway I want you to have, is amateurs treat their art like it's a little side hustle and they've got one foot out the door and they don't go all in. They don't treat it like a real business. The professionals and professional creatives, professional artists, treat it like a real business. They build a brand, they build an audience, they have systems, they have marketing processes, they have sales systems, they have SOPs, standard operating procedures, and eventually you're going to have a staff. You're going to have a customer service person. You're going to have someone help you manage Shopify or whatever platform. You're going to have an assistant. You're going to have all this. You've got to first dream that up and be like, okay, wow, you got to let your brain even go there. Because if your brain can't go there, then your body's not going to go there. Okay. So it's like when you're driving. I remember when my uncle taught me how to drive, and he said, I was sitting in this, I was like way underage, not supposed to be driving a car, but he let me drive. And he was like, okay. So he's like, okay, put your hands on the steering wheel. And he said, wherever your eyes go, that's where the car is going to go. So just look where you want the car to go. It'll go there. I was like, really weird. And that's how it works.
Yeah. In fact, when I say, don't think of an elephant. Think of an elephant.
So you have to let your mind go there first. You have to imagine, oh, I have a staff. I have an executive assistant. I have a customer service girl. I have a sales girl. I have a Shopify manager. And you build out your future org chart of how you would love to see it there. And you're at the top there and you have this staff and you have this thriving business, and you can build it out as weird and complex as you want. Eventually, we're not going to do that from the outset. I'll help you build it out, but we'll do one main thing at a time till we get to 7 figures each.
Yeah, I think with what my struggle is I actually have a job and I homeschool my kids full time. And so it's like, okay, sometimes I just want to 200% focus on my business and just, okay, I'm just going to quit my job and that's the only thing I'm going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When do I take that plunge?
There's some really personal decisions in that. I wouldn't want you to compromise paying your bills or something. But at the same time, I think we can also do risky things because all reward is on the other side of risk. So you can plan for it though. And there's no reason. What I want to see is momentum happening in the background. I love this saying that small hinges swing big doors. So just one small tweak can actually have quite a large leveraging effect. And so you got to make sure that you're really focusing when you are working on your business. They're high leverage activities, not things that just waste time and don't really get you anywhere. All of that it's in the program, but if you need more clarity, we can work through that further. In terms of timing, like I said, I want to see a trajectory, like I made this much that month, it's gone up, I doubled it this month. I would want to see that kind of trajectory before you just quit and go all in when you haven't, done the stuff within the margins of your time to see growth. You should be able to see growth even while it's still the side hustle. That should be no problem at all. And set some targets for yourself. That's the other thing. I think people are afraid to set targets because they don't want to disappoint themselves. But if you don't set a target, what are you aiming for? Like absolutely nothing. So we've got to have something to focus our mind on, just like the elephant, right? So start setting targets each month and then only do activities that actually help propel you toward that one goal. If it doesn't help you meet the goal, you're not doing it.
Yeah. I actually had someone reach out to me and she's like, when is this tutorial coming out? And I was like, end of September. And I'm like, it has to be ready. It has to be ready at the end of September. So I'm doing it. It's like.
Okay. So that's something that I just learned about you. And now you seem to know it for yourself, but let's just cement this is Elke needs deadlines. She needs deadlines. So you need to give yourself some deadlines and hold yourself to it. Plan and set the goals, set the targets, set a date, and it goes in the calendar and it doesn't get erased. It is in the calendar. It's in your day timer. You show up and you do the thing. And by the way, a lot of creatives need to work like that. They need to operate that way because we're too loosey-goosey. We're a little bit too much like, am I feeling it right now? Like I'm like that totally. So I have to have appointments and calendar blocks and things like that, with some leeway for adapting. But that's how we have to operate. And that's how professionals operate.
Yeah, this is the thing as well. I'm doing a market on the 1st of November. And so I'm already thinking all of October, I need to be making stock for this market. It takes so much time,
And we've already talked about that's not how you're going to build a 7-figure business if you're hand making things. So you might need to rethink your business model and what's the thing. It's like, do you like making the dolls or do you like making money? I mean, you can have little craft hobbies, but that's not going to be the thing that gets you there because you can't make that many by hand. You know that. If you keep doing the business activity, that's not going to be the high leverage activity. You can't add more hours to the day. So that means you're going to have to make a change to what you're doing, which might mean you're not doing markets and selling dolls at markets because there goes your weekend. There's all the prep trying to make that inventory by hand, hundreds of hours going into that. And so that may be why you got into it, but that doesn't mean that it can't completely morph into a totally different business and that being 100% okay.
Yeah, I know. I do like 2 markets a year for that reason. And so one is on the 1st of November. And so, and then I've also had a shop reach out to me and she's already stocking some of my products. So she wants to have a restock. But it's like, okay, I'm doing that. And then I'm creating the tutorials and the DIY packs on the side.
Yeah. At the end of the day, something has to give, right? Have you broken down what you're paid per hour when it's all said and done, and then you're selling wholesale to a retail person?
I don't calculate it per hour, Leah.
You should.
I'd be very sad.
And you should be sad. You should be because you started with a passion. And that's great. That's the first thing was we get into something because of a passion. But if you were to calculate all the hours of creating the inventory and then you're not even selling it at retail value, you're selling it at wholesale value to a stockist, you are getting paid less than minimum wage. You know it. I know it.
They don't pay me wholesale. That's what I say to them. I say I cannot do wholesale price. So they actually pay me a reasonable price.
Yeah, but they still have to have markup. Let's say they paid you retail price for it. You're still making less than minimum wage. So, and then that doesn't count the actual doing the markets. And then you have to pay usually to show up at a market. Then you're setting up the booth and you're just standing around all weekend hoping people buy stuff.
But the making of the products does go into my content. So that is great. I do, I film it and then I use that.
Yeah, but you can do that anyways for content. That's different. Making one thing and doing a time lapse or whatever, that's a great piece of content. That is not the same as putting hundreds of hours into creating inventory and that's a whole model. And I'm telling you, in-person markets are only good for initial validation and just getting actual real-time feedback from people on a product. That is not how you scale a business. That's not a good model. We skipped markets altogether and went straight to e-commerce and did 7 figures in 9 months. If I had gone the local market route, we would still be doing $10,000 a month. It's so limiting and it's not helping build the brand.
I hear what you're saying, and I know it's true. I just also really love having a market stall every now and again. And a lot of people, I've done this one before, it's right before Christmas. I know it's going to be a good market. So
yeah.
But no, I know exactly what you mean. And then I'm thinking, okay, do I save my time and energy? And do I just fully go in on the other things that I need to do?
Well, that's the challenge, right? So I'm not saying that people won't buy it there or that you don't love it or there's 1,000 reasons why you do it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that if you want to be a hobby crafting person. If you want a 7-figure business, if that's your vision, you have to have a different model. But I'm just telling you from a model and scale and a math standpoint that the business model has to change because you need something that's actually scalable.
How many products do you think a good amount to have? Because I know in the last call you were saying don't have too much, don't do too many products, just keep it really simple.
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer, as you know, and I'm really a big fan of don't even put out anything else other than the one big thing, like the one thing that actually makes a lot of money. Because every time you introduce a new product, you have to create a new funnel. You have to create new marketing material. You have to do new ads, new content, new everything every time you have a new product, whether it's small or big. And one thing I learned is that whether it's a $27 product or a $27,000 product, is the same amount of work. In fact, sometimes the $27,000 thing is less work. So don't make it hard on yourself. Everybody tends to overcomplicate and make their lives a living hell because they just add so much complexity. So just do one thing.
Cut out the physical products and only do digital or DIY packs.
Yeah, unless there's such a high demand that you find a way to manufacture or have some kind of cause where you employ other local women to help make them, because you know what I mean? Like, unless you can duplicate yourself and still keep the margins or manufacture, unless there's a model that's an actual feasible way and the market wants it, then you might want to focus more on the DIY side of it, on people learning the skill and the packs and the subscriptions. That's way more scalable. So, you know, ultimately, I don't really like telling people what to do. I can only like give you things to think about and chew on. And ultimately, you have to trust yourself that you are the business owner. I trust that you know what's best for you, but sometimes we need that outside perspective, right? And so I'm happy to be that for you, if that helps. I probably said some challenging things, but I think that if you take action on them, I think in 3 months from now, we'll have a very different conversation. I think your business does have a lot of potential, and I think you know a lot of the answers already, actually, and you just need confirmation.
Yeah, thanks for your honesty and your advice and your time.
All right, you too. Thanks for tuning into Legacy Launch Pod. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you leave me a comment, let me know, rate this, and we'll see you next time.